you know that you've invited me to Dhaka University. It's one of the world-class institutions of the world that used to be called the Oxford University of this part. I also have some link because my wife's grandfather between 1960 and 1963 was the Vice Chancellor of Dhaka University. His name was Dr. Naved Husain, and he was the brother of Dr. Zakir Hussain, who was the President of India. But you can Google Dr. Naved Husain, and it'll be interesting to read because it relates to the history as your university has evolved. I was not exactly sure what the topic was for today because I've been traveling and I got back and Mr. Hadi, who takes care of my yellow operation, he mentioned I have to come here. So I made some notes, but I'm trying to think what will be relevant. I think what I do is that someone mentioned my experience. So I'm 68 years old, and I still feel that I'm 28, at least internally. So I work 12 hours a day. I travel, and by God's grace, I try to lead life, as if I'm 28. When the car breaks down one day, then we'll see. But so far, God has been kind. A little bit, people ask me, what's your job description? And then people ask me, what will you do after you retire? So they were saying CEOs are quite busy. So when they ask me, what's your job description, I say, I sit at a desk. My desk is always very clean. And my job description is that sometimes I say yes and sometimes I say no. But the yes and no impact the company. So when I start my morning, I normally write down 3 things which I think will have the biggest impact. The company which Beximco Park, as many of you may have visited, we built in 1994, and between 94 and today we converted the paddy fields, and now we have 40,000 employees located there. We have a revenue of about $500 million, and in the next 3 years we want to take it to $1 billion, which will make it South Asia's largest cotton to garment export house. To share with you some of my life experiences. I grew up in Karachi. I went to a school called Karachi Grammar School. Life in those days used to be quite simple. It was not like today. So if we had a tree in the house. So myself, my friends, my siblings, that tree was enough to entertain us for many hours. We used to play a game called Jhadbandar. Polyester was not invented, so sea breeze used to come. There were no air conditioners, and we were all quite happy. I think, in some ways happier than we are today. Then, and personally, I had no ambition. I had no, I didn't care. So I did what I enjoyed. Till a time came when I wanted to explore the world, go abroad. And my father said that if you don't go for engineering, then you can't go abroad. It's a waste of money. So I decided I wanted to study arts. So because of the greed to go abroad, I switched to engineering, at the last minute. Not because I liked it, but I was keen to get out. Then I ended up in America. In America, I started, studying engineering, and in the summers, I went and I decided that I earn my own money. I won't impose on the family. So what I did was that I looked for a job and I became a bus driver in Chicago. And becoming a bus driver in Chicago, I thought it to be horrible. But the sad part was that I really enjoyed it. So I wrote to my father that whenever you meet a bus driver, you should respect him because your son is also one. He intends to carry on. So he was very angry. He said, I'll come and catch you and bring you back. And so, on his threats, I went back to university. But I still miss those days. It was not a bad career. Once I went back to university, somehow I started really liking engineering. And I had some good professors who made the difference, and then I ended up in the Silicon Valley. And then, I used to work for Fairchild Semiconductor. We used to make chips. And then some people left that company. One of them was Boer, who made Boer's Law. And but I was 3 or 4 years older than Steve Jobs. But Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Safi Qureshi, we were all living in the Silicon Valley. And I still have a lot of friends there who've done much better than I have. But those were exciting times. Because if you went to a restaurant, when you go to a restaurant in Dhaka, left or right, you will find someone talking about garments. In Palo Alto, in that part of the world, if you went to a restaurant or a bar, left or right, someone would be talking about operational amplifiers, new chips, microprocessors. But there was a similarity, both in terms of the nature of the work. So then I spent quite a lot of time there, and then I decided I got bored, so I moved back. And I moved back, and I didn't know what to do. So I had some friends who were traveling to buy machines, so I said, take me along. So I set up a textile mill. I didn't know anything about textiles. But with a lot of money invested, I had no choice but to quickly learn it. It's not a rocket science. You can actually pick it up quite easily. And then I ran into 2 friends, Syed Rahman and Salman Ahmad. We used to be in grammar school together. So we met up, and in '94 I came to Bangladesh for the first time. And then the idea was we put up a denim plant, but we convinced each other, so we built up Beximco Industrial Park in the paddy fields of Ghazipur. So I've been based here, so I've become a Bengali. I'm not fluent in the language. My son is. He can speak Bangla. He can read poetry, and for him, I feel like a foreigner in every country now, even Pakistan. So I feel very much at home here. It's been a lovely period of my life. The country, the people, they've made me welcome me, made me feel very much at home. Abroad, I used to hope and pray my father would send me a letter, and usually the letter took 2 months to reach. Landline phones were difficult to get through, and it used to cost a lot. Today in Bangladesh, I was looking at some numbers, so you have around 166, 170 million population. 149 million people have mobile phones. 80 million are connected to the internet. I don't think there's anyone here who doesn't use Facebook, Instagram, different types of search engines. This whole movement, because of the technology, has had a huge impact, on social, professional, knowledge, the way you shop, the way you live. The world's gone crazy. You can even hack elections. You don't know Donald Trump on. Terrific transformations are taking place. The way we used to travel, it used to be by car or taxi. Taxi, was if you were lucky, or a bus. So now you've gone to Uber, and you press a button and Uber taxi comes. The next stage will be it will become driverless. Then what will be the impact of that? Because the driverless cars are still there. I'm also involved in some real estate businesses I do in Canada. So it's a construction thing. And I was looking at it now in new build. So the first thing was that the parking lot for every apartment, you've got to put an electrical connection so that they can charge the car, because all cars will become electric. There's absolutely no doubt about that. See, the sun's energy reaches in 8 minutes. Now they've learned to harness it. The only issue is that it works only for 6 hours. But I think by next year that will be solved. So it will work for 24 hours. It takes 3.5 acres for a megawatt that we reduced. So when you get free energy, fossil fuel will be gone. So when fossil fuel goes, your Uber is already, driverless. And cars are moving. I have a car abroad where I can go to sleep and it changes lanes and it slows down. Not that I test it every time, but the technology is there. So people are saying, why should you make garages? Because if you have a driverless car, then why waste the square footage? Or for that matter, there will be no more ownership of cars. Why would you buy a car when you can just hit a button and a driverless car will come and take you wherever you want to go? Similarly, the solar energy, we are talking about the land, but solar cells will be used to make highways. So that technology is already there. So you'll have a driverless car with solar energy and you'll be able to, you won't have any bills to pay. If you take it a step forward, Bangladesh had buying houses. So what did a buying house do? That a guy sitting in Singapore would come or Hong Kong, and he would work with a garment factory and then go to the ivory towers of the retailer and connect and take a commission for doing that job. But now that the big manufacturers have come in Bangladesh, you don't need a buying house. So they have people who are better qualified, they've got better technical knowledge. So now the retailer is working directly with them. But if you take that analogy, then why have a bank? So when the banks crashed, and they used to say that America will disappear first before Lehman Brothers does. But in a very short time, Clinton and Bush pulled out the Glass-Steagall Act. So interstate banking and retail banking and investment banking merged, and America was left with 13 banks, and Lehman Brothers disappeared. So my biggest customer is Zara. Zara actually invited me to Spain, and they told me that don't worry about it. You know, if the banks collapse, we guarantee the letter of credit. So the question is that in the future, and I don't think in the very long future, if I was starting life, I would not become a banker. Because, you know, paper money will disappear, banks will disappear, plastic cards will disappear, and technology will take over. So you're living in an age which is very complicated. The geopolitics right now is also very, very complicated. So you had a unipolar country, now you have Brexit, you know, you have the Middle East in flames, no one knows what's happening there. Countries which were, I mean, the world was very clearly divided. So you could paint half the world in black, half in red. So black were the poor countries with cheap labor, and they were supposed to use the labor to make cheap gadgets. You know, China was also included, and export them to the countries red who were rich, which was European Union and America. Now if you look at the world, the red is becoming black and the black is becoming red. So today it's actually cheaper to spin yarn in America than to actually spin it in China. So a lot of manufacturing in America is, in Bangladesh we made yellow, and you know, people said that the market is very small. But the per square foot sale of yellow in Dhanmandi is better than the Zara sale in many countries, the per square foot sale. So Bangladesh is, you know, changing. I just told you about the mobile phones and all that. But I won't be around, but I think in another 15-20 years, what I foresee is that Bangladesh will emerge like Hong Kong. So you don't have very much land. So the buildings are going up. You know, when I came here, there was not a single multinational. Now wherever I go, I see Kentucky Chicken, I see, you know, Butler's Coffee, Pizza Hut, Apollo Hospital. So in a very short time, the landscape has changed, and it's also changed. I mean, for yellow now, the only thing we need is space, because wherever we open up, it's amazing the way the sales shoot up. So as I said, and now yellow is going into India, it's going into Indonesia, it's going into China. So the countries which were red are turning black, and manufacturing is, you know, with Donald Trump, he wants to bring all the manufacturing back to America. But it's not just that, it's the way the world is changing. Now, a little bit about Beximco, that what has been our strategy. So when we set up this whole thing, we looked at the fundamentals. So Bangladesh's heroes, we felt, are the 80 million workforce between the age of 20 and 30. They're super skilled, they have an excellent temperament, and they have a very open mind, so they can learn anything. And what we did was that we provided a new form of management, which was actually, you know, as your paper had mentioned, a focus was on transformational management rather than the old thing of transactional management. Transactional management, I think, belonged to the industrial age, where you had a command control structure and communication I mean, employees were given targets and they were then given rewards or punishment based on achievement of targets. The status quo and organizational structure, no one was encouraged to think out of the box. And it came top down, the leadership. So the status quo was maintained, the organizational culture, was never challenged. Recently, I issued a memo, to the Beximco team, and basically the memo said that, we've been there since 1995. We've done well. We've created a place where 40,000 people work. We are exporting about $500 million. But let's say that that we are a new company now, and it's a new startup. So let's forget whatever we've done, and let's start fresh. And let's all treat ourselves as if we are on probation for 6 months. So basically the challenge was that how do we reinvent ourselves? And so when you come to transformational management, that's basically, setting an organizational vision. So, whether you are an organization or you are a country or you are a family, vision and definition of vision and clarity of vision and communication of vision is super critical. And if you don't get that right, then it's like, you want to climb a certain wall and you do it in a hurry, but you put the ladder against the wrong wall. Or, you set out to a destination without knowing where you're going. So the definition of vision. Now once you define the vision, then communicating the vision and getting teams, because no one man can do anything. It has to be done by teams. And then, communicating it to the teams and then restructuring your organization. Because with the new technology, when you have, 149 million mobile phones, 80 million people connected to the internet, and that's just a start. So what has happened is that the command control structure is obsolete. So you don't need layers of an organization. What you need is that because information used to be power. So if you went to a government office, he would hide the file, and you had to bribe him to get the file back. But with a ERP, whoever you want, information is instantly available. So rather than passing files and installing a phone and saying that the process takes 6 months, now no one has an excuse for the process to take more than 1 hour, because information is available. If it's enabled, you can do that. So basically, the communication, the ERPs, and what's actually happening is that in Moore's law had said that your computer every year will have double the power and the price will become half. And that actually happened. So now you carry your iPhone or Android and it's got more power than a computer which used to fit into the room. But the thing which used to be expensive was bandwidth. But now what's happened is Moore's law is applying to bandwidth. So your bandwidth doubles every year, or maybe more than doubles, and the price becomes less than half. So bandwidth is something which has become the cheapest. So with changes happening with Amazon and these people, what's going to happen is that your computers will become $5, $3 items. But they will work like a supercomputer because they will be connected to supercomputers, located elsewhere. And that because your connectivity will be so fast. So with all these changes, the organization structures are changing, and that's what we are trying to do at Beximco. So we are mapping the processes. We are creating process leaders. So work is not organized according to hierarchy. Work is organized according to the process. So, and each process has a leader so that decision making can be very fast. And as a result, the same thing is happening with your customers. So right now the world's best or most successful retailer is Zara. Zara started with Beximco in 1997. No one knew them. In 2016, the founder of Zara, whose father used to be a laborer on he used to lay railway tracks, for a few days became the richest man in the world in the Forbes list. Now he's number 3, Mr. Ortega. He has a close relationship with Beximco because we started with him when no one knew. But when we talk about speed and all this, if you take Zara, why is it, if you go to Harvard University and you study supply chain, they'll at least give you 5 case studies based on Zara. So what has he done? That retail used to be spring, summer, autumn, winter. Ortega became the father of seasonless retail. He said, let's do it every month. Why have spring, summer, autumn, winter? By doing that, his markdowns from 50% came down to 88%. So 8% on $22.5 billion of revenue is you can imagine. The second thing which happened was that his shops, the footfall increased because when you go to his shop, let's say because of global warming, the summer extends. Because of the seasonless, you go to Zara, you have short sleeve shirts, very cool looking garments. You go to Marks and Spencer, because they are working spring, summer, autumn, winter, you'll have winter clothes, but the summer is extended. So consequently, their markdowns is about close to 40%. So these are the transitions. There's a book which says that it won't be the big who eat the small, it will be the fast who eat the slow. So you have to embrace this technology and you have to base it on basically speed. Finally, what Beximco is also looking at is another thing in management is differentiation. How do you differentiate? That to me is super critical because when you go and market, since you are all business students, so you have to try to find the blue ocean. The red ocean is where all the sharks swim. So in Bangladesh right now, the red ocean is denim. Wherever you go, every 200 yards, someone is putting up a denim bill. So if someone throws a little piece of meat, 500 sharks jump to catch it. And it's not just in Bangladesh, it's Bangladesh, Pakistan, India. Somehow everyone is putting denim. The markets are European Union and America based. So can you make a product which the idea is you swim out of the blue ocean? So, or even if you do denim, for instance, Beximco has made a denim where we've used technology. So when you wear it, it's 2 degrees less in temperature on your body, because we've used a thing called Cool Max and we've put stretch. Then what we've looked at is that if you go to Amsterdam or you go to London, there's a big trend that people want to come to the office on bicycles rather than cars. And in Amsterdam, the bicycle parking lots have become 4 stories high. In London, the taxi drivers are crying because the cycle lanes are becoming wider, and the same thing in Vancouver. So what we did was, in our jeans we put a Cassatt. We used Cool Max to make it cool, and we gave it a brand. So we said, why not cross over from active wear to casual wear? Because if you wear a pair of Nikes and you ride a bike to the office, then from the office you can't go to the bank. But if you wear the Beximco pant, so it's a smart pant, so it's equally comfortable on the bike, but then you can pick up your briefcase and go to the office. So to cross over into the blue ocean, there are many things which we've done where now we have joint patents with Calvin Klein, we have joint patents with Tommy Hilfiger, where we'll actually get royalty every time they sell. And the next stage is that, it's easy to own the manufacturing, but the intellectual capital, how do you gather that? So we've got big design studios now in Barcelona on 10 Times Square. And we actually go to a company as a brand, not just as a garment exporter. We try to put, Beximco, some of the brands we have, we hope that we've just partnered with Amazon, and they'll be introducing 2 brands, and also with Sam's Club in Mexico. Then the yellow brand, is moving into Indonesia, into Malaysia, into China. So stage 1 from manufacturing, how do you own the market? And that's where the margins will come. So these are the type of initiatives. I was in Beverly Hills a couple of days back, and I had a family holiday with Tommy Hilfiger's brother, Andy Hilfiger. So he's going to visit us, and we are going to launch a joint brand. He'll stay in Bangladesh for 10 days. So sitting here, a lot of things are possible. Now coming into my philosophy, how do you manage people, how do you handle people? So basically the old formula was that you buy the brain for the white collar worker and you buy the body of the blue collar worker. And then you have a reward and punishment system, and you go to work. I think that was a very stupid system. Basically, you pay people, you do all that. But if you want to run a successful organization, you have to win the heart. Once you win the heart of the worker, then you don't have to manage. You win the heart of all your employees. And that's not easy. So how do you do that? So you do that by making them part of your family and being transparent, not lying to them. When you have problems, you share it with them. When you have successes, you celebrate it. And celebrate even small successes. You can celebrate anything. So don't be tight-fisted in giving increments. Give big increments. You will always get it back. Then work on meritocracy. The minute you start doing favoritism, people will know about it and you'll spoil the culture of your organization. Your communication, if you're a leader, then as a chief executive, you have to lead from the front and you must be a role model. So if you say people should work hard, you should work hard. And you should be there longer than they are. You have to walk your talk. You have to walk the talk, you have to be transparent, you have to be truthful. And you have to be generous. And you must be self-confident and there should be no jealousy. The minute you bring in jealousy, why did he get more than I did or he got, then you become a third rater. So you have to look at the big goal. And then if you want to pursue the character, to be a chief executive. So some of the most important characteristics, it's not so much the knowledge, it's basically the three things which I feel that every chief executive or any leader for that matter must have. So number one is courage. So if you don't have courage, the Muslims went and conquered Spain. So there was a huge Spanish armada, and when the Muslim army landed, they wanted to run away. So their leader burnt the boats. And he said that if you go into the sea, you die, or you can't. The Muslims ruled Spain for 600 years. So basically, you should be willing to burn the boats, and you should be having the courage to take risks and to challenge life. Don't just say, oh, this is how life is. Make life the way you want it, poke it. It's there in your hands. Don't make life boring. Enjoy it. Don't take it too seriously. It's not worth it. Success is not, it's the fun in leading your life. So don't make the worst thing that can happen to someone who just chases money and has a boring life, I really feel sorry for. Someone with nothing, with an exciting life, is much better off. So, challenge life, take risks, have courage, be progressive. So the minute there's a change in technology, don't say, I'm getting old. If I said that, I should have retired 10 years back. But, so challenge it and adopt it. So I'm always looking to see what's happening new, what's the new technology that's coming. Then in the subcontinent, we have a legacy which we have to wash away. So that's the legacy of the British rule. Because when you get colonized, what happens is that it's like going to jail. And when you're in jail, someone tells you, okay, this is the time to go to the bathroom, this is the time, your freedom is finished. You don't remain a captain of your soul or a master of your soul and a captain of your future. And then once the colonial powers go, then you feel that, where are they? Who should I ask? What should I do? So you're a sovereign country, you're a sovereign family, you're sovereign, you're the owner or you're the chief executive of a company. So basically, I think all South Asians, not just Bangladesh, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, India, we should think, not that I admire them, but we should think like either the Texans or the Chinese. So we have to wash our culture and adapt this. I was looking yesterday, India has a huge market, but Alibaba's online sales for one day was 39 billion and India's for 1 year was 37 billion. So he did a bigger sale in one day than India does for the whole year. So think like the Chinese. I mean, in subcontinent, if you make a road, everyone says that, oh, there's corruption, there's some problem. So you know, everyone thinks how narrow a road to make. If you go to Texas or China, you know, they make big wide roads. So think big. Don't waste your time looking at the past. Okay? Don't look at the rear view mirror. It doesn't help. Look at the windshield, what's forward. So be forward looking and see, poke life, change it, have the courage, don't be risk averse. Pick a field or a business or whatever which you really enjoy and you are passionate. Because a large part of your time and your effort will be spent at work. So if you do something which you are not passionate about and you don't enjoy, you'll have a, number one, a miserable life, number two, you will not be successful. So do something which you enjoy, automatically you will become passionate and then you will be successful. Of course, work very hard. Hard work has never hurt anyone. When you don't have work, that's the time to worry. If you're doing overwork, don't be worried. Just get 8 hours sleep and you're okay. Work as teams. Forget individualism. The future is working with teams where the sum is great. The sum of the parts is always greater than the total is greater than the sum of the parts. So 2 plus 2 can become 8. But if you work alone, then it will be 2. Don't this thing, as I said, that everyone says it, that change is the only thing constant in today's world, whether it is geopolitics or it is business. So they say if you are not willing to embrace and change, then die. So organizations which don't change will die. And you have to keep reinventing yourself. The rest is that, something which I've learned is that, many times I've failed. I've tried things, I failed. So don't be scared of failing, because, for Muslims we believe that everything that happens for the good. So I've had instances where I had to visit a country, an oil well. I also spent time in the oil business. And I was very keen to go there, and then, they cancelled my visa and I couldn't go. So I felt quite miserable. But the same day, Iraq bombed that offshore oil field. So then I said, God saved me. So everything happens for the good. Leave something to Him. It turns out, and that's about it. I mean, as I said, embrace change, embrace disruption, admire your successful competitor. Because if you don't admire him, you won't be able to compete. And finally, don't just wish it. And don't just, information age is about ideas, it's not about wish. But don't wish it, do it. So execution is to be more important than inspiration. Even Nike says, do it. That's a very good slogan, do it. Finally, again, as I close, my final advice is don't take life seriously. Have fun. It will take its own course. My children often ask me, and I said, what should we do? I said, go do whatever you want. Just enjoy yourself. Thank you very much.
his speech is ended, but we will have a 5 minutes question answer session. You can raise your hands and ask questions.
So, what the qualities you find in yourself that you don't notice in general, and what made you different from the general person? What the qualities you consider that yes, I possess these qualities and these qualities has led me to the chair.
Okay.
But
I mean the three qualities which I mentioned, four qualities. That one is that I think when I was growing up, probably I was inspired by my father, and for the men in the house, courage, you are not courageous, you are nothing. You can be Einstein, but you are nothing. So that's one thing, and somehow I've grown up like that, and I'm trying to convey that to my children. That at the end of the day, you have to go 6 feet under. So it's a question of how soon, or this life is very, very short. So there's nothing to be scared of. Live like a tiger, and let life take its course. One life of a tiger is better than 9 lives of a jackal. So that's one thing. Then be progressive. Progressive means that my father was not that progressive, but my mother was very progressive. So she wanted to build a basement in a ditch in 1960. And all the architects said that you throw your money away, the place will fill up with water. But somehow she found a Dutch architect, and she said the whole country is under water. And in the 60s she did soil test, and she built it, and till now we have never had water. So progressiveness is something which I learned from her. So be ready to adopt. So I'm 68 years old, I'm still talking about internet and all that. A lot of my friends who were my class fellows, they've sort of, they think that they're old. So I've stopped meeting them. I only meet old people who think they're young. The third was be objective. Objective means if I go say that I'm very super clever, I'm smarter than Bill Gates, then I'm being stupid. So you have to know who you are, where you are, and then where you need to go. So basically courage, progressiveness, and objectivity. If you have these three, then you are set, and then don't worry. Okay? Right.
No other questions?
How you have challenged your life that bring you the at present position, in short.
To reach the present position.
At present position.
Yeah.
How you have challenged, or how you accept the change, and what you want to be, or are you satisfied with your life?
Sometimes I feel I wasted it. No, as I told you, I was not very ambitious. So I think, and personally I don't really, I do it because I enjoy it. I love my job. And I never targeted to be chief executive or this or to create a big thing. I just did things which I enjoyed, and God supported it. I was in the right place at the right time, but it was not really engineered. So that's why I was saying that you can make a fantastic plan. To tell you the truth, I don't like, I love Bangladesh, but I don't like crowded places. So I like beautiful things. So rather than a Van Gogh painting, I would like a beautiful mountain, real, God's creation, not a painter. Similarly, So I had promised myself never to live in a crowded country. I had never been to Bangladesh before 94. And so it was not part of my plan. Actually, I should have run away after I saw the traffic. But I've lived here now for 20 years. I love the place because I love what I do. So basically, in answer to your question, and how useful has my life been, I don't know. Because sometimes I ask myself, has it really been worth it? So then I decided that, which I said, do it. Do it, enjoy it. Not to be chief executive. You will, inshallah, become a chief executive. Because when you do things that you enjoy and you are passionate and you become good at it, and then, it's not work. I used to envy artists and musicians because they love what they do. So I thought, my work will be something that I would not like to do, but I'll have to do it to earn the living. But then it turned out I enjoy it. So when I go to work, I'm waiting for tomorrow so I can go to work, because I have so many ideas and things I want to execute. As a chief executive, the thing which I have enjoyed, God has given me the privilege that what I think and decide, I can actually see in a short time, because He's given me the power to execute it. If I was I could never work for the government, because so many people would get involved and it's too slow. So that aspect I enjoy. The rest of it, as I said, that remain, I'm quoting someone, one of the people that I looked up to. So he basically said that remain foolish, remain young, and don't worry too much. And automatically life will be successful and God unfolds it the way. Saying that, have some kind of a roadmap and a plan, but my personal feeling is that don't overdo it. It will happen. So if you have integrity, you have courage, you do things which you enjoy, you are passionate about, automatically you will reach the sky.